A few times entering this past weekend in Major League Baseball, we previewed a weekend set with the caption World Series preview. In Houston, it was the Astros and the Dodgers. The Astros continue to play good ball. They take 2 of 3 against LA. In Philadelphia, it was the Phils and the Guardians. Cleveland, the best record in the American League. They won the rubber match yesterday and the weekend series then, of course, against the Titans. But Philadelphia is still the best record and the most wins, 65 and 40 in all of MLB. World Series preview again for the Phils this week as they host the New York Yankees. Philadelphia and Zack Wheeler, minus 142 as the home favorites in the opener today against the Pinstripes. Luis, don't call him, heel on the bump on the other side for New York. The over-under is 9. What is your expectation, DRS, in the opener today in Philly?
Better pitcher on the mound, probably we can agree, would be Zack Wheeler, the Philadelphia Phillies here. But the lineup here for the Phillies needs to get in gear to sort of match what we've been seeing for the Yankees, or at least from yesterday. But if we're looking at temperatures here at Citizens Bank Park tonight, 85 degrees, wind blowing out the dead center field about 8 to 9 miles an hour. So we should be able to have the opportunity to get some home runs. Now, the question is going to be, we liked what we saw to Zack Wheeler coming out of that mini break for himself, skipping that final start of the regular season, the first part of the regular season. Great. Then obviously the All-Star break, then coming back, giving a little bit extra break, and he was fine, going 7 innings, didn't give up any earned runs here. So if I'm looking at that 9 price, to be honest, the way the Phillies are at the plate right now, feast or famine, he has bounced back into form, which you'd like to see. So I'm leaning more towards an under, which is tough with those two lineups in that small ballpark. And I just explained to you how the temperatures are. But Zack Wheeler should have a very good effort tonight. That's the best of the closer coming over. Should be available for the Phillies today. That's a full bullpen in a game they absolutely must have. I do think the Phillies are the better side tonight, but not really loving laying a minus 150 price or higher the way the Phillies are at the plate. So probably a better look under 9, even if that's a hard pill to swallow when you're looking at these two lineups in this ballpark. I just feel like there's going to be less runs here, maybe a 4-3 type ball game when it's all said and done.
And the Phils haven't been sharp since the All-Star break, even really before it, losing a set against the Oakland Athletics. So this could be another statement awaiting in Philadelphia. But the Phils are not really struggling with anything. Still a 3-game advantage over the Dodgers for the top spot in the National League. Skenes Day number 13. That's XII in the history of Major League Baseball. On the road in Houston. And the Buccos are booked as a road favorite. That's because Paul Skenes is getting the start, although the money line, very different than what you saw right there. It was minus 154, now down to just a minus 132 price. The over-under 7.5 in H-Town. Of course, Skenes in his last start pitched into the 9th inning, only allowed 2 earned runs, but did suffer the first defeat of his MLB career in 12 starts. 6-1 now with a 1.93 ERA.
Yeah, we got a mismatch on the mound today, no doubt about it. So it's kind of interesting where we saw that price point here, Ben, and that minus 150s price, cut down by 20, 30 cents at some outlets, because you look at Skenes, by far the best pitcher on the card today. Last 60 days, how about an XFIP minus number 57, an ERA of 1.84, a SIERA number of 2.37. He really fits the bill. But I think the reason why is they're on the road against a better overall team. So just like in that last game, you can get an unbelievably good Skenes performance, but that doesn't mean it's going to match up at the plate and they're going to back him here. You might even get 7 innings pitched out of Skenes, 101 pitches where that game is 1-1, saying, what more do I have to do? And then watch the Pittsburgh Pirates lose on the back end of that bullpen. But I still would back Skenes at this spot because I do think he's the much better pitcher on the mound today. And they do have a decent lineup overall, talking about Pittsburgh, how they're shaping up. So for my money, it's going to be Skenes once again. But if it's seeing that the betting public is saying, you know what, I don't know if I trust a full game here of the Pittsburgh Pirates, I can't blame you because they're on the road against Houston and they're a heavy favorite. I still think Skenes going to be able to get the job done. That's the way I'd bet it.
7.5 is the K prop. We'll talk about it with Tom Vecchio in our prop perspective up next, but I can't believe it's remained at 7.5, and the over has plus money. Now we go to New York City Field, the site for a matchup between 2 wildcard contenders in either league. The Twins pay a visit to the Mets. New York booked as a slight home favorite, minus 118. Total stands at 8.5. What do you like in the opener between the Mets and the Twins?
Yeah, I think it's a cheap price there to take the Mets at a -112, even though we do like the way the Twins have been playing. But if we're just lining up pitchers going against pitchers, Quintana's going to be on the mound. He actually has some okay splits over the past 30 days, which is something to watch. And also a Minnesota Twins lineup that hasn't been all that effective, Ben, against left-handed pitching. Quickly flip it over to the New York Mets. The lineup does match up very well against the right-handed Simeon Woods Richardson here. I get a light lean here towards the Mets in this game tonight.
A matchup in Milwaukee between two National League postseason teams, at least as of this moment. But what is the ceiling in Milwaukee and for that in Atlanta? -116, the number for the Brew Crew as a slight home favorite today against the Braves. Total at 8.5. As we broke down the game with Tom Vecchio, DRS, he said he liked the under. How could you knock it against this ATL side? They're the only team in Major League Baseball that has played more than 60% of their games to an under this season. 61.4% is the under percentage for Atlanta.
Yeah, unless you're just being a contrarian, the only way you can really look is towards the under. By the way, Grant Holmes, starting pitcher for the Atlanta Braves, one of the better profile pictures that I've seen this season. Now, having said that, he's going up against a roster that may be Willie Adames, Rhys Hoskins, the only two positive batters, maybe Jackson Chirinos. So not a lot to love there. Yeah, like that picture, if we could probably post that up a little bit.
Hold on, we need that.
Yeah.
Friezo, Jesse, get on it. Grant Holmes, the hair, the stash, the handlebar.
Yeah.
And soon, I'm sure, Kevin Walsh's face on that body as well. But let's make sure we get Grant Holmes on display for all of the nation to see here on the SportsGrid. DRS, continue the breakdown, please.
Yeah, and also the Atlanta side. Maybe a little bit better, actually, approach at the plate than what we have on the opposite side. Riley, Ozuna, Duvall, Rosario, and Murphy, all high ISO power numbers against right-handed pitching. But having said that, Colin Ray's been pretty good this season, and it's the Atlanta Braves. It just screams these two teams playing to an under today. Probably as simple as you can get.
Yeah, I would have to agree with it. Great American Small Park, might we see an under there? 9.5 the total in Cincinnati. It's the Cubs in the Reds in a virtual pick'em. Again, Chicago, a fascinating team as of this moment, DRS. It's the bottom two teams in the NL Central, 51 and 56 for the Cubs, 50 and 55 for Cincinnati, both 10 games back of the top spot. That is Milwaukee. But the Cubbies made some moves this weekend. Isaac Paredes yesterday in the trade. What exactly does Chicago do this week ahead of the deadline?
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, you take a look at the pitchers on this card, last 60 days, minimum of 20 innings pitched. There's 23 total pitchers. You know who's 11 and 12? That's Spires and Tyone, a 96 xFIP minus and a 97 xFIP minus. Now, Spires does have a slightly higher ERA over the past 60 days. And if we're taking a look at some of those non-analytical numbers, Spires on the mound, ISO power number through his last 68 batters, 277. Weighted on base percentage, 359. That's not very good. Flip it over on the other side here to the Chicago Cubs starting pitcher Jameson Taillon. That ISO power number of the past 30 days, Ben, a 110. A weighted on base percentage, a 247. Now, looking at the lineups and how they go toe-to-toe, obviously, the Reds have a better hitting lineup as it appears. Then you take a look at the Chicago Cubs. But if I'm doing one thing in this game, it's probably going to be Ian Happ to record an RBI. He's been very good against right-handed pitching over the past 30 days. He'll bat as a lefty, which, again, lefties have done primarily the damage against Spires. So for anything in this game that I really like, it's probably Happ to record an RBI for the Chicago Cubs.
The Boston Red Sox, the Seattle Mariners, two teams right now trying to get a wild card spot. Seattle, of course, tied for the top spot in the American League West with Houston. Inside Fenway today, the Red Sox lost this weekend set against the New York Yankees and the finale yesterday. Boston, since the All-Star break, just 2-7. The Mariners coming off a sweep of the Chicago White Sox. Good, it's what you should do. But the M's did lose 8 of their previous 9 entering this weekend against the Southsiders. 8.5 the total today in Fenway. What's your play?
Seems like a low number, doesn't it, for Fenway? Wind blowing out 5 miles an hour, which, again, not really a significance there. Temperatures in the low 70s, so you're getting a good night. And also, that Boston lineup, 1 through 6, Dominic Smith, Tyler O'Neill, Devers, Yoshida, Abreu, and Duran, all elevated weighted on base percentages and, for the most part, ISO power numbers. But Logan Gilbert comes into this game 4th on the card with a 78 xFIP minus and an ERA over the past 60 days of 2.37. Nick Pivetta hasn't really been much worse, an 81 xFIP minus, even though his ERA is hovering around that 4.7 range. But if I'm just going pitcher to pitcher, I do trust Gilbert a little bit more. And so many times you would take a look at, as I just said, the Boston Red Sox lineup looks much better on paper. But the Mariners, who typically come in from a day-to-day performance, like, man, who could even take in this lineup? Get this, their first 6 batters, Robles, Arozarena, Rowley, Polanco, Haniger, and Vossler, all elevated ISO and weighted on base percentages here. I think I have the slightly better pitcher on Seattle. I'll take that slightly dog price also on the Mariners tonight to try to beat the Boston Red Sox.
I will say it does very much intrigue me to see Seattle with their all-star Logan Gilbert as a slight underdog against a struggling Boston team. How about this for Jack Flaherty? Gets the start today in the Motor City against the Guardians. It will be his 4th start in the month of July. 3 of the 4 against the divisional foe. That is Cleveland. He and Detroit have won one of the previous 2. They've split those 2. So is this Flaherty's final start as a member of the Tigers? They are a slight home underdog in the Motor City against the Guardians, who have the best record in the American League Central, the best record in the American League.
Now, Flaherty's really on the trade deadline, Ben. He's not pitching tonight. Let's just be honest with ourselves. There's no team that's going to be like, hey, let's wait out an 8-inning, 104-pitch effort where he might get injured as I try to make a trade for him. So I doubt he actually starts if he is getting traded. But if you are looking at some of the numbers here, Bybee has a 78 xFIP minus, and then you take a look here on the opposite side, you're still getting some pretty good efforts here out of Flaherty. He's got a 77 xFIP minus. So you have 2 good pitchers on the mound tonight against 2 teams that sort of struggling at the plate, if you will. I lean towards the under, but being honest, if you're trying to get ahead of the curve, and you see, what's the price point that you said was what was the that graphic that popped up? What's the
minus
number that we're going
120.
off there?
Cleveland's a favorite.
So, like Cleveland, if you want to take a look tonight, if you like Cleveland, bet them right now because you'll get that price point locked in. So even if there is a pitching change that goes to a spot reliever in a bullpen game, you have a major advantage at that point here. That's the way I would play it out. But once again, just a thought process on if somebody's going to trade for Flaherty, he's not starting tonight.
It's a good look, DRS. Oh, and there we go. There's our guy, Grant Holmes.
Woo.
Look at that.
Man.
That's beautiful. Do we have the
Look
Kevin
at
Walsh
that.
Photoshop up already or no?
Wow. Oh, wow.
Okay, we'll have that for tomorrow, depending on Grant Holmes' performance tonight in Milwaukee.
Oof.
I mean, look at that Lechuga. A curly, long-haired man like that, the handlebar mustache. Might have to wager on Braves tonight.
No doubt.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is Donnie Rightside putting his hair?
Garnier Fructis, man. That's why I said it. Like great hairs. You know what I mean? Come on now. I'm doing both of that
I'm
stuff,
sure that will lead off the money line starting in just a moment on Sports Grid Radio. DRS talk tomorrow.